Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Tonight is Woke Wednesdays. We do this every single Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Hurston Sanchez. I'm a second-year doctoral student here at FIU, Florida International University. And I have the pleasure of being amongst just amazing just young people who I just met, mostly, and we've been talking vegan talk for the past couple minutes, and I'm so excited just for y'all to meet them and for us to learn from them. So if you could just kind of introduce yourself, tell the people who you are.
Yes. Okay. Hello, my name is Tara. I'm from New Jersey. I am in my first year of my master's degree in higher education here at FIU.
I'm Carla, Argentinian Italian from the MIA, representing animal rights activist, vegan almost a year. We organize a couple groups called Anonymous for the Voiceless, Miami Animal Save, and this is what we do every moment that we can is try to spread awareness.
Real quick, Tara, how long have you been a vegan?
It was 3 years in February.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was very happy.
You said almost
Can't
a year?
wait to say that. Yeah, going on
A
a
year
year
when?
fully vegan.
Okay.
Next month, my vegan anniversary.
Love
it.
Celebration
Love it,
in
love
order.
it.
Well, my name is Gabriella. I'm born and raised in Miami. I've been a vegan for a year and a half now. And I'm one of the team leaders of Anonymous for the Voiceless in Miami, along with Carla and Karina, who's not here today. And I'm also the event coordinator for the National Animal Rights Day, which we're having actually this year, the first Sunday in June, June 3rd, Loomis Park and 10th Street.
Is it a flyer that you can send me?
We can when it gets
Okay,
printed
great.
out. Definitely, I'll let you know.
Yeah, let's
It's
post
pretty
it.
awesome.
For sure.
It's
Yeah.
an awesome event.
Yeah, and that's me.
Yeah. So we have just
Look, Mom,
an
we made it.
amazing group of people. And tonight, I really want to encourage everyone to ask whatever
Anything.
questions you have, as quote-unquote ignorant as they might be. This is a place, I think, to learn and
To get
from
woke.
talking, from talking to our panel, they're very just kind of encouraging and embracing of all types of questions. So let's just talk about this tonight. So let's kind of start. Please feel free to be as interactive as you like. Post questions, post comments.
Challenging questions.
Yeah,
Please do.
everything.
Don't be
And very
Um,
intricate questions.
Yeah. So what is veganism? What is it?
Veganism, well, one important thing I want to point out is veganism is a lifestyle. It's not only about what you eat, but what industries I think for me, what industries you support, and, not to wear leather, wool, cashmere, silk, things of this sort, not buying products that test on animals, and of course, the food that you eat. So basically not
And
supporting
entertainment.
of course, like no
zoos,
circuses.
aquariums.
Wait,
Not
say
Zoos,
that again.
Just not supporting any captive animals that are being exploited for human entertainment.
Right.
Pretty much.
So not any industry that
circus,
exploits
fairs.
animals.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Aquariums, yeah.
Question.
SeaWorld.
Do you support entertainers, artists who aren't vegan?
Yeah, I mean that's
Like music, actors.
It'd be hard to consume if you didn't support anyone who wasn't vegan.
I try
you know
not
what I
to.
mean?
But I
don't
don't
really
I don't like artists that straight out have expressed a hate for animals. Like I
By
don't like
wearing fur.
I don't like
Yeah.
Rihanna at all.
I get
I don't like
disgusted
J
when-
Lo. I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of Jay-Z and
Lady
Beyonce.
Gaga.
Even though Beyonce now she did a nice thing by encouraging her followers to go plant-based.
Mhm.
But again, that's just eating
Mhm.
plant-based food. It's not being vegan.
Not
like,
wearing leather
whole.
and fur.
Like there's a very big
And we're gonna talk
difference.
about that. We're gonna talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
So vegan is so we didn't say all of it. So part of it is not supporting things to wear, right?
Mhm.
Right. Correct.
Well, fur, leather, and what's the other part of it?
Entertainment.
Entertainment and food. Most people associate veganism with what you eat.
Yeah.
And it's not about perfection also. It's with those things that you have the capability of not
Yeah.
purchasing tickets to go see them, we have that opportunity, but it's like food, it's just doing I have to still drive my car, so it's doing the best you can, causing as least harm and destruction and just being as cruelty free as
So
possible.
let's say this real basic. What kinds of food?
Can you eat?
Mhm.
Or
Or
not?
can you not eat?
Meat,
Well, no, meat.
fish,
Yeah.
dairy,
Cow milk.
honey.
But the good thing
Eggs.
is there's an
Eggs,
alternative to all
Everything.
of these things.
And
So
the reason I'm asking basic questions because I'm not sure where everyone is.
In terms of
right,
knowing.
right.
And people tend to kind of govern their lives off stereotypes and rumors, right? It's like, I heard this, I heard
Right,
that.
yeah.
So a lot of people just don't know what. Just basic veganism just is.
And one thing I want to mention, and also in addition to what Gabriella just said, but like for me, veganism is just the overall ideology that humans are above animals, right?
Yeah.
So we have like racism, sexism, like homophobia, all those things. There's a thing called speciesism, and what that is that you regard your species as more above other species.
Right.
Which is basically just off of looks, same as racism or sexism. You see one,
Exactly.
and they're different from you, so they're less than you. So it kind of also can go into more in-depth things. Like for example, like as a vegan, I've tried to like not call my pets like pets because pets denotes ownership.
Or
and I don't
like
own
their
those
master.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
So I call my dog. She's my fur friend. She's my
Yeah.
sister, really. She's
I have
my
a
sister.
question.
Like I love her.
And I'm gonna ask all the questions tonight.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Did you give this animal a name?
Yes, but you give your daughter a name, like she.
Yeah, and,
Like-
and
There's
daughters,
nothing
and
wrong
daughters
with
and
that.
sons are also a type of ownership.
But that's I don't believe in that though. You don't have to own
Yeah.
your
That
son.
would-
But you're not
That's
going to
just-
deny the fact that
Yeah.
at least your daughter or your son, they have legally rights the same as you do.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas your animal does not.
Mhm.
And your animal would not survive on its own on the streets if it wasn't.
I mean,
But that's
when you're
obviously,
kids,
of
right?
course, always adopt,
Kids would
don't shop. Never buy from
that's
Carla's like, I want to
Yeah.
cover everything.
Yeah.
And,
There's so much to it,
and
yeah.
as a disclaimer for tonight, I want to. So I'm a pescatarian. Like all right. So
That's
I started
Oh,
as
I-
vegetarian.
I-
That's how I
time.
started.
I was
It
like,
takes
I was
time.
showing off. I didn't mean it like it's a bad thing. I was like, I'm showing off.
LOL.
I meant to be positive.
That's
All right.
You were like, baby steps.
Y'all took it as a negative, but I meant it as positive.
baby steps.
But
That's how I
I'm
started.
saying this because I was so anti anything of food. I mean, I was love my meats,
Mhm.
but then I just kind of radically switched right to no pork, no chicken, and no beef.
Hey.
working on that. I
We
love
were
this.
there too.
Yeah.
But my point
We
is,
were
so
there.
I want to ask real questions
Do
tonight
it, yeah.
Please
because
do.
this is such a
Yeah.
tough thing that we're tackling
Mhm.
tonight.
Yeah.
What people
It's
eat
not easy.
is people's full paychecks go to what
Yeah.
they eat.
And food
Right,
is so
like,
culture too. Like you
so
associate
cultural,
food with
right?
like memories and your friends,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
gatherings.
yeah.
Food is very social.
That's the best part
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
veganism too. It also like just broadens your taste buds
Yeah.
and like you're literally not deprived of anything. Like the things that you didn't like
Yeah.
before,
You like
like
them
your
now,
taste buds
yeah.
completely change and you love everything.
So before we get to that, because I don't on the show. I don't like perfect world type scenarios. Like I want people to get to that. I would love for.
It's
But let's talk about the hardship. Like how hard it is to kind of even get there. So one of my first question would be, and y'all feel free to ask questions and comments. What made you just? Because
Go
before the show, you said you were saying that y'all were meat eaters,
Yeah.
Italian,
Meat eaters.
Argentinian,
Venezuelan
right?
Italian.
So, like,
Like,
yeah.
a
So
function.
what was kind of like the impetus, the catalyst to just like, you know what, I'm thinking about just not eating meat anymore, and what happened? And y'all feel free to comment. If y'all are vegan as well, please feel free to
Please
comment.
tell us. I love
Vegan.
vegan friends. Follow me. Glitter Terror. If you're vegan, follow me. If you're not vegan, that's fine too. Okay, so essentially, I've been vegan for 3 years, but I was vegetarian for like 8 months before that. So I've been vegetarian for almost like I guess over 3 years. Anyway, okay, so I was in an Intro to Women's Studies class. And so it was around the time that Mike Tyson was getting like fucked over for the whole dog fighting thing, and that came out in the news.
Yeah.
So my whole class was like, dog fighting, who would ever, da 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 da. And there's this woman in my class,
That's where you're
Caroline, who's
going.
now my really good friend.
I'll agree with this.
And she raised her hand,
I like
very casual. She was just like, not that I don't feel bad for the dog fighting, but like this type of thing happens to pigs and cows and chickens all the time in
Every
animal
day.
agriculture. And I considered myself a feminist at the time. This was my freshman year of college, and I had never like even thought about this. And so our professor was like, "Oh, that's very interesting. Like, do you want to elaborate?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I can show you guys a video if you want." So she showed us Gary
Oh,
Yorski's
God.
best speech ever
Yeah.
in class.
That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, literally the first thing I ever watched. And so in this speech, you guys should look it up. Best speech ever, YouTube, Gary Yorski.
I'll post it tomorrow.
Gary
Yeah.
Literally the best.
Gary, what is it?
Yurovsky.
He is Yurovsky. Sorry, I'm not good at pronouncing things.
No
Your
worries.
English was your
Yurovsky. So in this speech, he's talking to a college class about just like all the reasons why should go vegan. He goes over health, ethical, like so many things. Environmental, exactly. So we watched right up into the first part where they talk about where they show slaughterhouses. That was the first time I ever saw a slaughterhouse in my life. I was in class, like, crying. I left class. I called my mom. I was like, I'm never eating meat again. She's like, you're joking, da-da-da. I haven't eaten meat since then. Like, for me, it was very, like... And then, like, as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I can't do this. And it's funny, too, because I was vegetarian for, like, 8 months, like I said. And then when I went vegan, I went back and watched the whole thing over again. And in the end, he shows a dairy farm. If I had seen that from the beginning, I'm pretty sure I would have gone vegan. It was just because it stopped at the slaughterhouse. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go vegetarian. But yeah, long story. No, that was a long story. Long story long. Was vegetarian, saw that speech. Later on, saw veganism, and it was just like, yeah, it just made sense to me.
Mine is kind of on that same kind of topic too. I made the connection with the whole dog thing. The Yulin like dog meat festival. Just I remember being.
What is that?
So it's a festival.
Okay,
they literally like.
What's it called?
The
Yulin Dog Festival.
But their mentality is like, it's terrible. They think that like the more they torture and sacrifice the dog, the more tender the meat is gonna be.
Because more adrenaline is running through.
People eat the dog.
Yeah.
And cats.
They eat them. Yeah.
I think it's 80,000. Just in the festival, 80,000 dogs and cats. And so they do like just the most. You can't even imagine the things that they do to these puppies, like dogs, kittens, just and I remember like my husband asked me, he's like, well. I was just depressed for so long. I was crying. I was like, how does this even exist? Oh my god, this is insane. And my hubby was like, well, what's the difference between the pigs and the cows and the goats that you eat and these dogs? I'm like, what are you talking about? That's food. You know, this is my son.
It's just a cultural difference.
Yeah. And I really thought that night, and I was like, there's absolutely no difference. If anything, like pigs are so much more intelligent than my dog at home.
Strictly speaking, they are.
It's interesting how we qualify by intelligence.
Yeah. I don't think we should, but people do all the time, which is why I use it as a reasoning. Because
it's a way to humanize it.
People will say, "Oh, but my dog's my family member." Okay, but scientifically speaking, this pig is more intelligent than your family member.
She's a handful. Let me tell you.
I guess for me, I don't think I subscribe to it.
It's not easy.
I guess I don't like that. That's interesting.
The intelligence thing.
Yeah. Because then, what happens? I mean.
Yeah, I don't think I like it.
Because you have children who might not be.
Of course.
Human children, right? Who might not be. So it's like, historically, we have killed humans who have not been as intelligent as others. Right, so I for me, I guess I have.
But this is.
That's just like a little thing, right? But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on like because you make a great point.
No, that's what helped me. Like I was just I was like enraged inside of me. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Real quick, we have someone saying I'm transitioning.
Cool.
Instead of meatless Mondays, I challenge myself to vegan Mondays now. Other times I'm pescatarian, but I really eat fish about 3 days a week.
Well, you're gonna change it after this. Thank you very much.
Katrina saying, did you pick a vegan wine? It exists. So we found. So tonight we had a conversation. But yeah.
So just to make it clear,
we had the option of drinking.
I pulled out my Barnivore.com is a good
what is
reference.
That?
Barnivore.com is a website that you can type in specifically for alcohol. You type in the name of whatever you're gonna drink, and it'll tell you if it's vegan or not.
So why is wine not vegan?
So some wines are actually filtered with I believe it's called isinglass, which is it's fish bladders. So
which is nasty.
Some have egg whites in it. Some have milk in it. Pork gelatin I saw the other day. Some red wines are soaked in leather, which is cow skin.
So
to give it that leathery, that red wine taste. It's
which
insane.
Katrina starts drinking Modelo.
Yeah.
So vegans are drinking Modelo.
So I wonder, because lately my professor, he usually calls me one note. He's like, Hurston, you're all about race, right? And he's like, you have to be careful with the language that you use because sometimes that can be unattractive to people.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So I wonder when we use words like nasty, disgusting, oh that's leather. Is that a way? And y'all, please feel free to ask questions. I don't want to be the only one asking questions tonight. and I'm asking this question because these are very real questions,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Are these
People have asked me
are
this before.
these? I'm a people person. So
No, yeah,
is
it makes-
this a way of maybe pushing back potential people that could be, I don't know, allies is the word, but the people who would be potential vegans?
Yeah. So for me,
very important.
like, I do think perhaps some people will be turned off by the language that I use, but when people tell me, okay, this girl Caroline, who I said may be vegetarian, she used stuff like all the time, like, oh, that's nasty. When you think about it, it's like eggs are chicken, period. Like, that's how she talked, very like vulgar, and that for me was what worked.
I like
And I have turned 4 people vegan. Thank you very much. That is my count right now. Personally, like, I don't know people.
It is a thing.
No, it is a thing. I
It is a
can
thing.
count.
It is a thing.
Like, personal
What
people
you
I
learn
know.
empowering.
You
It
have to
feels
like
Yeah.
share it.
Exactly. Like, friends and people
accomplishing
in my
something.
life. I've turned 4 people in my life vegan, and it's because of how I am. Some people, they
May doesn't
react
count.
to the vulgar
May
thing.
doesn't count.
She does count.
You say she's a baby vegan. So
But I,
she's-
She's
I
like-
definitely
she's
think
the
like
best.
every different personality deserves a different approach, and that's part of being
Exactly.
vegan
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Is learning how to like
How to speak to
approach
people.
and how to speak to
Yeah.
people.
When
but-
I'm my natural self, I'll use language like that. If I'm in like a situation of like a a demonstration or like a more formal thing,
Yeah.
I won't use that language. But
Yeah.
among friends, I'm gonna be myself, and that
Yeah.
will react with the friends I have. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
If
So-
there was a right way, a white way.
There's a white wave. There's definitely a
If
white
there
wave
was
of
a
doing
white
things.
way, that probably would be
There
the
is
right
definitely a
way.
white way of doing things.
very messy.
Oh, there's definitely a white way. We don't.
There was a right
Oh, yeah,
way
we
to
don't- we
turn
don't shy away
people
from-
vegan. Everybody would
There's
be
definitely a
vegan.
white
Yeah,
way of doing
literally.
things. There's definitely a white way of doing things.
The white way usually works. So if there was a white way, then that would
For
probably.
white people, absolutely, yes. Oh yeah. This is Woke Wednesday. All right, so we kind of have a basic understanding of what veganism is, right? So it's not just about food.
Yeah.
It's also about things that you wear, and I think kind of proliferates into other areas of your life. Like
Yeah.
people who you support, people who you don't support, politics.
Of course.
How you see
It's a
the
lifestyle
things.
change.
Yeah.
So, I don't think you said your story.
Oh,
about how
why
you
I
became
became
vegan.
vegan. I'll be honest. I was actually studying abroad for my master's, and I was
Oh, cool.
kind of
Where?
In Switzerland, in
very
Geneva.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Great place. Yeah.
And I was kind of lonely there, and I was really on like social media a lot and stuff. And then I don't know, people started sharing a lot of these videos, like the Yulin Dog Festival, and basically showing animal exploitation. And I just started seeing these videos more and more often, and I didn't know of any of these things before. I'll be honest, I was not aware of these things.
Where's your
And,
family from, real quick?
Venezuelan Italian.
Oh yeah. So eat meat eaters.
Yeah, totally. Latins, you know,
Yeah.
every single meal.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't fathom like that this was happening in the world and people aren't aware of it, and it just destroyed me. Especially the first connection was with the dogs, honestly. That's what first got me. And I tried being a vegan for 2 weeks over there, and that did not work. And then I started.
Can you explain that real quick?
What?
Because
Why did it
I
work?
think sometimes people get caught up in the shit. You know, I'm gonna try to be a vegan for a day.
Because-
and I love like people just trying for a day. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And it's like I failed.
And then you
I
give
failed.
up
You want to know
forever,
something?
know?
Because
Please, yeah.
some people can, like, you did the switch, you went vegan, immediately cold turkey. It didn't work for me. That
Yeah,
approach,
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it took me like 6 years to become fully vegan.
Oh wow.
You know, I
Say
started
that.
removing things
Yeah.
from
Glad
my
you said
diet.
that,
Like,
yeah.
no, it took me a long time.
Did
Yeah,
you watch a lot of documentaries?
No, I didn't.
That's,
So
That's
I
the
didn't.
thing.
what
The
did it?
knowledge
What-
thing,
What
yeah.
did it? What did it for you?
You know what finally did it for me? I started seeing more videos on the dairy industry.
It's so important to watch these
And I, at
videos,
that point, I was pescatarian, so I was eating fish, seafood, and still dairy and all these things. And then I started seeing, you know, the mistreatment of cows, and then it's just, I think milk, I mean, it's anything is like that exploits animals is horrible, but milk itself, the dairy industry, is so horrible. It's like you're literally forcefully impregnating an animal.
Yeah.
over
When
and over again.
9 months, you know, they
Taking your
hold a baby,
children,
they hold
yeah.
their calf like a
Just
human
like we
holds their
do
baby.
for 9
You're
months.
ripping the calf away from the mother the day it's born.
Mhm.
They cry for each other. You know, they feel for each other. They have these connections with each other. Like people think, oh, animals don't have feelings and stuff. They do. And you know, that calf itself, its female will become a dairy cow herself, and
Repeatedly.
you know,
Vicious
repeatedly
cycle.
impregnated until she can't produce anymore, and then be killed. Or if it's a male calf, it'll be shot in the head, within 3 days are turned into veal.
Yeah.
So it's just the dairy industry is like people think
Probably the worst.
oh, animals don't die in the dairy industry and stuff. No, they do. They do, and it's really so that was actually the final straw for me. Excuse me. To become vegan.
And
That
real quick
really...
too, like the dairy industry for me, like when you see it, the abuse is very gendered. Like you'll see videos of like the people who like do these things to the cows, and it's like, oh, you bitch, move.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, like the words that they use are very violent, feminine terms that you would use against like human women. So as like a human women feminist, it's hard to watch another, you know, female woman, just a different species, being called these things when I wouldn't want to be called
deprived
those things, you know?
So one thing I'm noticing, and I think what you're saying is extremely powerful. My sister is on here, and she's saying that the dairy industry is just so sad, and people are agreeing with her.
It's disgusting.
Which is so important for vegetarians to know what they're contributing to. Like, and so many people think their udders are gonna explode.
And one
That's
thing
another
is,
one.
I've been studying language a lot, and so before I get to that, so one thing, you're saying something very interesting about how we're gendering animals, right?
Food is so gendered too.
Part of what I'm hearing a little bit, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're, in a way, I don't know if this is the correct term, but we're humanizing. It's probably a bad word, but in a way
I think you're saying.
We're humanizing the animal, because we've created the animal, right? We've created that discourse around the animal. So is that maybe a way to kind of, I don't want to say turn people, because I don't know if I like that word, but to get people to understand that this is a dehumanizing thing. This is it's a slaughter. It's a murder.
Completely is.
Right? So is that maybe a way of maybe talking to people who wouldn't understand it otherwise?
Yep. I feel like I say intro level vegan stuff. Like intro level vegan, you talk about animals in terms of making them as human as possible, because we grow up and raised to think that like humans are this and animals are that. So when you talk to someone who's never thought about those concepts, you try to humanize animals, you know? But then once you've talked to someone, I mean, like I feel like if we talk about animals, you can talk about animals as animals, but still not see them as less than. So I think when I'm talking to a non-vegan audience, I will try to humanize animals to make them understand. Yeah. But I think once you get to a certain point of understanding, it's like, what's the difference? Like, you know, we're all the same, you know? But I do humanize animals for a non-vegan audience.
I mean, we humanize our pets at home, right? It's my dog at home is my son, so it's a good way to, you know, it's family. So what's the difference between our dogs and those other animals?
It's showing a level of respect for them.
Exactly.
Because we all live on the same planet.
If we don't think we're superior to our dogs at home, then why should we think we're superior to anyone?
The critical person to me wants to ask other questions. But I do want to stick, I think this is a great show, because I think not everyone is, people are at different stages,
levels,
right? And their understanding about veganism, right? So maybe we can have a part 2 where we can like get into maybe
like the nuances,
like real nuanced questions, right? Which I would love to do. Real quick, and I want to get to this question Almi's asking, and maybe we can get to this a little bit later on. Can people share some tips for everyday eating and favorite foods, recipes?
Yes,
and we can get into that.
Absolutely.
Katrina's saying happy quote unquote happy cow.
Yes, I love that
is
app.
helpful and funny surrounding vegan restaurants or restaurants that
great
offer
resource
vegan
for
options.
restaurants.
Just Yelp and Google.
Natasha's saying, but humans aren't animals, and they eat each other. Indigenous people
humans eat each other?
Yeah, so Natasha, maybe you can clarify. But humans aren't animals, and they eat each other. Indigenous people have respect for animals, but still eat them.
That's a whole
we can, you know, I actually like talking about this because a lot of people that we speak to when we do the demos on the Weekend for Anonymous for the Voiceless, they bring up a lot of situations, a lot of hypothetical situations, like, oh, but what if we were on a desert island and there was only meat there, and what would you do? Would you eat and hunt the animal? Yes, I would. I mean, in those instances where survival is your survival is at risk, of course you have to do what it is to survive. But in this world today and age, no, the majority of people in developed countries have meat served to them and wrapped in plastic. Like it's very easy to go to the supermarket and pick up these things, correct? So the issue here is industrialized farming and the effect that it's having on our health, because the majority of these animals are pumped with hormones and antibiotics in order to be maintained healthy in the conditions that they're kept in.
Okay, real quick. She responded. She said, "But animals eat each other."
For survival.
Yeah, that's their
Which is we get we get this every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so we're not eating for survival. We're eating for taste, palate satisfaction. Like, we don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Lions, sharks,
These
tigers,
animals don't exploit each other.
They don't have a grocery
It's survival
store.
instinct.
Yeah, they're literally eating to survive because they don't have options at their grocery store to literally go like this and get the vegan option. They're literally eating to not die.
Mm-hmm.
We're eating because it tastes good and because we have the
It's convenient.
But would someone
misconception that that's where we're getting our vitamins.
But would someone say that they do have that option, right? Because there are trees, there are bushes, there's grass.
But that's
So
not
that's a
For
type-
what? I'm sorry.
For
animals.
you said for animals, right? For lions or whatever. There is that option, right?
Yeah, but they
For
do eat
them,
that.
Right? So
But you have to understand, intelligent wise, they're not as intelligent as we are.
or not even that. It's just like it's not an intelligence thing. It's just like
They're not capable.
animals.
I think
It's like their biology. You know what I mean? So lions, for example, they have teeth that naturally are able to cut down an animal and eat it raw. Like, that is their biology. Our biology is not the same. And I don't want to use the word intelligence because, like, intelligence gets kind of, like, iffy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'm more intelligent than a lion. We're just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, humans
Differently
obviously
intelligent.
live different than lions. I don't hunt, grow, anything that I
lions
eat.
don't wear
You
clothes.
know?
We do.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
shop
it's-
at a store. You know
I-
what I mean?
We
guess-
have the critical thinker
Gorillas
portion.
eat
We're
grass.
Yeah,
in that sense.
It's different.
We're
So
more developed.
biologically, like, I think you said this before, like, if a lion saw a dead animal, that'd be like hunger instinct, let me go eat it. When we see roadkill, or when we see like
We're
an animal
disgusted.
dying, we're like, oh, that's so
When we
sad.
see a
Or,
slaughterhouse
oh, that's
video.
gross. Yeah.
It doesn't make us hungry to see a
And I guess
slaughterhouse
the teeth
video.
thing, I don't know if I'm how committed to the teeth thing because the lion can masticate like
Right.
And their
grass.
jaws
Like they
go like
can
this, yeah.
they can absolutely eat grass. They have that. We see dogs, right, who will eat grass and stuff. My dog used to eat rocks. He's an idiot. Like
Well, they literally have like their
Like-
intestinal
Right.
digestive system. It's
Yeah.
naturally made to
Shorter.
get rid of their intestines.
But I think
Right.
these
to get rid of the
maybe
meat
this is a good
quicker.
part too, right? To get into like the very nuanced part of. But so I don't want to get stuck on this because I want I want people to see more of the bigger picture around veganism, because part of it is there's so many misconceptions around this.
For sure.
And when we get into the intelligence stuff,
of course.
that we can have, I think that's a good conversation to have, but maybe like a little later on, right?
Okay.
Let's
That's fine.
no, because we can definitely
It
go
gets
there.
difficult,
We can definitely go there. But part of I want
There's so much to
I
know.
think this first one is about awareness,
Yeah.
right? And then we
Yeah.
can get
The
into like the
introduction.
nuances for sure.
Yeah.
Real quick, let me here. Oh, you want to help me read?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh wow, this is a
Wait.
lot. Okay.
people are
Okay, this one.
Questions.
Okay, so I admire the initiative to cut back meat or become a vegan, and the talk has been regarding the effects on animals, but what about the effects on human health? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that right now?
Yes.
All right, so real
Let's
quick,
do
we'll
that.
read some more.
Wait, okay. For me,
Okay.
it's more of how meat and dairy is industrialized. Okay, valid. I see you.
Mm-hmm.
Many of you have been vegan for a while, but do you recall how you dealt with negativity from others' family when you say you were vegan?
Okay, there's a lot of
Initially,
questions going
yes,
on.
I remember
Yeah.
that. This is the issue of exploitation for sure. Some people actually have dietary and monetary restrictions. I would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
That stop them from being vegan. So I think that's a misconception as well.
That's a huge.
There's so many. Can we go back first and
Yeah, so let's read the rest of it and then we'll come back to it.
Do you realize other things we do affect animals? So does that mean we'll stop polluting the waters and air with waste and then emission fuels, then go back into the earth? I think we should. Why would we not? That affects humans as well.
Yeah.
For sure. It's a whole big thing. Intelligent by human standards.
Yeah, intelligent.
Exactly, yeah. That's why intelligence
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a weird topic,
Yes.
you know? I'd be dumb as heck in the jungle. Exactly, yeah. Like, our intelligence
Yeah.
is different where we
So
are.
let's-
We wouldn't survive.
so
Might
let's-
as well.
So let's go back to the first
Let's
question.
talk about health.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
That's
health
huge.
question. Yeah, the
That's
health
huge.
questions. Let's go for it.
Let's talk about how. So I just went to the. It was the world's largest slaughterhouse, and the 37,000 pigs slaughtered every single day. 37,000
North
every
Carolina,
single day
right?
in North Carolina.
North Carolina,
There's-
we're a horrible state for so many reasons.
There's 6,500 of these
Yeah.
places, and just to give you an idea of how large this place is, like the entire city of Tar Heel is employed, like
That is
mandatorily by this place because I spoke to a couple slaughterhouse workers, truck drivers, and that's the only job they're able to do. So these
my
people
gosh.
know where they're putting these operations in towns and cities where they're obligated to slice throats for a living. They're obligated to do this, and then the people living around these operations, it's like contaminating their water. It's they're allowed to spray the manure in the air. So there's 160.
Well, explain about the pits that they fill with the waste and the blood, and then.
So the lagoons. Just in North Carolina, they produced 15,000 Olympic-sized pools of manure every single year. Like that's insane. So I
Which
mean,
is
what
bad for
happens with
health
this?
and
Like
bad
when
for
I
the
was,
environment.
it's
like,
bad. People
yeah.
are getting chronic lung disease.
Well,
They're
and to
like,
prevent spillage of these pools, they actually then spray this into the air,
Jeez.
so it goes
Into-
into the surrounding areas.
into the feeding on top of the feeding crops that they're feeding the animals that we're eating. We're even when
So
I
it's
was
causing-
there, it was like I was 2 miles away from this actual slaughterhouse.
You can
and
smell it, right?
my nose hurt, like my chest hurt, like my skin was itching, my eyes were irritated.
Like people in these areas have chronic respiratory issues.
Mhm.
They've also have developed, cancers and stuff, and
Yeah.
so in that aspect, it affects
It's
people's health like that
crazy.
too. But also consuming these things, like
Well,
you were explaining about our intestines, for instance. Our intestines are double the size that of a carnivore. So when we eat the amount of meat that we are nowadays, this sits within us, and then it causes high cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes, and all
colon
of these
cancer.
things.
So, go.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I don't know much about the health aspect just because for me, like, that wasn't the go-getter for me, right?
I actually have a
But
personal
there
story of health,
is
but I'll
okay,
say it
awesome.
after.
So one thing that I always talk about though, there's this thing called the China study, right? And it's like the longest standing study of health that they've done so far. I'm pretty sure it was like over 200 years. Someone fact check me. The point is, wait, what are you laughing at?
I just saw that. Oh my god, that's so
What?
funny.
You saw?
The floor notes. Oh my god.
Oh, she was
They're there.
and we have not referred to our notes yet.
Wow.
We have notes.
Oh,
We're
I
prepared.
just
Vegans
saw
are
that.
prepared.
I was looking for more liquor, and I saw that. I was like, oh, okay.
We don't want to
We
misinform
we
you
don't-
guys.
we don't-
Yeah.
important.
No, yeah.
Oh.
So the point is the China study. So essentially, it's the longest study of health that they've done so far. So pretty much what they did, they looked at inland China, right? And the way that they ate and compared it to like Western societies. So the point is, the conclusion of this study was that areas where they weren't eating meat as much or dairy, most of it was just like grains and things that they farmed, they had like almost no cancer at all. They did not have cholesterol. The reason we have high cholesterol, the cholesterol comes from eating animals. You do not have high cholesterol if you eat plants. You know what I mean? So the two biggest killers in America, I'm pretty sure, are heart disease and high cholesterol. Or I'm sorry, it's heart disease and cancer or something like
I
that.
thought you were getting food police. Yeah.
And what?
Police.
Oh,
okay. I should say natural killers.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Good point,
Yeah,
Kristen,
yeah,
good point.
yeah.
Natural
Yeah.
killers,
yeah.
no one killing you.
Yeah.
Natural killers are heart disease and high cholesterol. That is all animal related.
We produce our own
Exactly.
natural cholesterol. We don't
Yeah.
need to add any more.
Exactly.
Unnatural
Cancer
cholesterol.
is completely. We've created cancer because we consume animal
Totally
products.
man-made.
So if you don't believe me, read the China study. Like, it's a thing.
80% of the country's antibiotics are pumped into
these animals.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Then we're consuming these antibiotics, and then when we really need to take antibiotics, we're resistant to the antibiotics because we've been eating these antibiotics
In
the whole
addition to-
time.
Can I ask something?
Wait, sorry. In addition to
So I
animal,
can't. Okay. Go ahead.
And it's just in antibiotics, like a lot of our antidepressants, most of them are prescribed, not prescribed, but like given to animals because animals in slaughterhouses, they like recognize what's happening in their area, so they want
They
to
get
resist
stressed out,
and they get stressed. They don't want to be compliant, so we give antidepressants to the animals that you are then
So it subdues
consuming.
them,
Yeah, so you're also eating antidepressants and things like that. Like it's just not good for your health.
So
yeah.
the comments are getting blown up.
Oh geez.
Lit.
I mean, yeah, they're getting
That's
blown up.
because Everybody's interested because we're natural herbivores.
I actually
Nobody
wanted
wants
to
to
but-
cause
but-
this
but-
harm and
But
destruction.
so I really want I really want Gabby
okay.
to no I really would love for you to share your story, but I also want after you share your story if we can get into
the comments.
not just a comment because the comments are creating a theme around a sense of elitism, a classism, because it seems that we're kind of abstracting certain
That's
things.
a great topic to talk
Right,
about.
but
actually.
but Gabby, please.
No, it's really quick actually.
No,
I
please,
just wanted
please,
to share
please,
my
please,
personal
please.
health
Yeah,
story.
yeah, no, please, please.
I became vegan because of animal rights issues, not for health or even environmental. I just, like I was explaining of the videos that I saw. I had really bad stomach problems before. I'm talking about gastritis. I couldn't hold food down. Like I'd be running to the bathroom, straight up horrible.
You
And
would you would run.
Yeah, I would run because if not, I'd be having accidents everywhere. And no, it's really. And then I was even taking a medication called Zelnorm, which was taken off of the market eventually, but it would cause like diarrhea, and then you would eventually get better or something.
Yeah.
I stopped taking that because it was horrible. So when I became strictly vegan, I'm telling you, within a week, my problem went away.
Crazy.
Straight up went away, and I haven't had any problems since then. So that's and I just did that by chance. It just happened. So you immediately will see a change.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Of natural issues are heart cancer,
Yeah,
heart disease
exactly.
in the United States,
And that's all animal.
and it's all. I mean, your story is so powerful because it was all traced to diet.
Yeah, completely.
Everything.
Right?
We are what we eat. We really are. And that's what I tell everybody too. It's like if you don't believe we're natural herbivores, try it for yourself and see how your body
Like,
legit
you
thinks
basically
Like,
detox yourself.
really. It's been scientifically proven. It literally reverses 14 out of 15 diseases. Like
And we can go into that too because I was telling about my mother earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do want to and because this is a very I think I look I mean
people,
like I mean this is like ridiculous.
Well, can I say something?
Maybe like
It's
after we can comment.
so many comments. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we talk about protein and B12?
But before so I want to take baby steps with this.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's.
Let's talk about food deserts. People talking about this.
Yes, because. So there's
food deserts and like
and my point is around food deserts that there's this thing about this word woke has become very popular lately.
Trader Joe's is lit, yes.
And people are saying that usually people who are woke are somewhat elitist because they now know something other people's don't, whether it's race, gender, LGBTQIA+.
I really don't.
Issues,
I wouldn't call it that.
Right? To not being
because we all come from different
everything
backgrounds.
needs to be
being
categorized.
woke to issues regarding veganism, right? Is so even the way we're talking tonight, certain things that we're saying are like, well, well, people eat this. Like, can you believe people eat this? Like, there's a certain language that is being used tonight, right? That's kind of like a non-vegan person wouldn't really be like, what are they talking like? What are they talking about? Okay. Right? So it's like, and part of it that people are saying, a big thing is that money-wise, people, and this is a very real issue that people think about is, I live in a food,
that being vegan is more expensive.
I live in a food desert. Not just so when I think of a class thing, it's not just expensive, but it's also an educational component because it takes a type of education to I'm not talking about like a college degree. I'm not talking about that. But education can come in many ways.
You want
right? So let's address that.
I think that's an excuse. I think that it's an excuse because we live in an information age. Everybody has a smartphone. Yeah. Everybody has access to knowledge.
And learn
on everybody, whether it's a smartphone, a computer.
Okay.
You have access to information, and that's if you even have the desire to go and educate yourself.
Well, and like we were just saying too, like the poorest countries in the world are vegan because meat is a luxury. They can't afford it, so they live off of rice, beans, potatoes, bananas.
And how we were talking.
I think in terms of like America and like let's talk about like just America because I mean I live in America. Yeah, so America's class division. I think there's definitely people who don't have access to these things, and that's why when Hurston has mentioned it before, like veganism being a class thing, I say it's a class thing because of knowledge. Because some people don't have access to this knowledge all the time. Like for example, I was living in New Jersey, college student. I had never heard of veganism until someone told me. You know what I mean? So I think some people don't have the access to the information. So that's one thing. But then the second thing I'm going to say is, like, if you do have the money buying power, if you spend money on food, like generally, or if you spend stamps on food, if you are buying food and not going to a shelter for food to be given to you, you can be vegan. It's terms of knowing like how. Okay, so like
a different
people.
part of the aspect, right?
Say it again?
So it's a different part of it.
Well, no, that's it.
I think you make a brilliant point about
Knowledge.
knowledge, and then there's economic standpoint, right?
Because there's also not even knowledge of veganism. I'm sorry, but just like knowledge of like how your plate is comprised, right? Because in certain how your plate goes, or like how nutrition is. I came up in an area where like most of your nutrition was meat centric. So if you live in a community where meat is, if you live in a community where meat is like, that's where you think of the bulk of your nutrition, you're always going to think you need meat for the bulk of your nutrition. So it's just like reforming your knowledge in terms of like for nutrients, you don't need meat. If you live in a food desert, you can go to a bodega and get rice and beans.
Bodega means like a little grocery store.
Okay.
Let's just start worrying about us, ourselves, or just the people around the world that do have the option of being vegan, do have the money, the resources, just everything. Like, I think we'd make a really
It's
huge
about
dent
really prioritizing what you're going to be spending your money on. If your health and eating, being healthy and being aware of these things and really sticking your guns to it is important to you, you will spend your money in that instead of like your iPhone and your Gucci shoes
or
and
all these other
things. I'll give the alternative though, right? Because we live in a capitalist society.
Yeah.
Part of that is so I tend to kind of like stay away from those type of like arguments, because those are dangerous arguments, because then we say, well, if you wanted to, then you could do this. Mm-hmm. It's a very type of, you can lift yourself by your bootstraps type of thing. If you wanted to, you wouldn't be poor. Mm-hmm. And it's, well, there's
it's not always that easy.
But there are systemic issues at play, and I think when it comes to veganism, it is such a systemic issue that,
of course,
like, it's
completely.
Maybe I never thought about it this way. It might be more systemic than anything I can actually think of.
Right? Since we're babies, we're taught to.
So part of it, I think, part of it, I think we're speaking from a certain type of privilege, and we're kind of talking about this right now. Because education is a privilege, right? So we're saying that knowledge is at our fingertips, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? So.
But it's also what you've been conditioned into believing what is the correct way of living life.
Absolutely.
Like, why is it's become almost like a privilege in order to have access to healthy food, when this crap that you buy at fast food places is accessible to everybody.
Crazy.
You know, like that's something I was bringing up to you earlier, how the federal government subsidizes meat and a lot of food that's produced by these animal agricultural industries to make this food accessible to everybody, but in all reality, these cuts that you like might be getting, like, okay, you get a $4 meal, like I was telling you at Burger King. In the end, with all these taxes and stuff, you're gonna end up paying $11 for it.
But people don't think like that.
Well, because they're not. They don't know.
And that's my point.
They don't know.
That's my point. People don't know.
So in all reality, you're like, oh, I'm getting
I'm
getting a bargain. I eat at fast food places. Oh, but going vegan is expensive. It's actually not.
It's gonna save you money on
your health,
on medications in the long run. I see it as a health investment
question, too. Because I'm completely with you. Yes, absolutely. But I also understand that, number one, understanding taxes is also a type of education, right? I don't know how many of us here have children. I know I don't.
I don't. No.
Right.
I don't think any of us. But we have furry children.
None of us, right? But when people have like 2, 3, 4, 5 children, and they might be a single parent, and at least in the way I grew up, my mom didn't even speak English. In addition to being a single parent and having multiple children, she just didn't know what she didn't know what she did not know.
Back then, yeah.
But that is not even back then. This is a reality that happens every single day, and like every part of the world, every part of the city. Here in Miami, especially in a place like Miami, right, with so many immigrant people, right? So. It is not, when I say privilege, it's not just an economic privilege or
just like a knowledge privilege.
It's a knowledge privilege. It's an access, but not just access to economic or knowledge, but the fact that I can even think, that I have time, the energy to think, is sometimes a privilege in and of itself. Which is, I'm not saying this to kind of debunk it. I'm just saying that it's a real challenge. No, but this is why
these industries get away with these things, because they're educating the masses in order.
Absolutely.
This is how they make money off of us, by keeping people
Absolutely.
in the dark.
I completely agree with you.
But that's why this is
Yes.
what bothers me, and I'm not perfect
Please,
for God's
go
sake,
for
you
it.
know.
Yeah.
But this is why we go out in the streets and talk to people. We
Yeah.
want you to know that you are being lied to. That, you know, unfortunately, the government, these big pharma companies, these animal agricultural industries, they just want to make money off of us, and they're unfortunately keeping us in the dark. You know, we're based off of these diets that are making people sick, that make us undependable on medications and doctors that are being educated within these same structures that are being funded by these industries, saying, okay, don't worry about what you're eating, just keep pushing this medication on, because you're treating the symptom, you're not treating the cause, which is your everyday diet.
So Gabby, I so agree with you on everything that you're saying, but so I'm throwing wrenches because of everyone that I know
please
and the
do.
experience that I feel, right? That my mom, for her to go to a meeting at my school regarding me was a privilege in and of itself.
Okay.
Right? Because she just didn't have time because she was working. So for her to even, I love that y'all going to the streets and talking about this stuff, but for someone to even give you a lend, just listening to y'all for like 5-10 minutes is a distraction from, they gotta go to work. They're trying to catch a bus. To go to work.
Everybody's in the same rat race.
Right. In different
levels.
In different
yes,
levels, right?
I will acknowledge that. Of course.
So it's. My point is that.
So you're saying this knowledge is more accessible to certain groups of people than others.
Which is going back to my point. Okay, I'm sorry, can I go back real quick?
Please, don't
so that's
apologize.
why this is like a classism thing, because it's not in terms of like access, it's in terms of knowledge. Now everyone has the ability to take 10 minutes out of their day from trying to feed their family.
I'm good.
You know what I mean? And so, okay, so I also want to comment on a few things people have been saying. So a few people have said the thing like, oh, what do you say about people who are 90 and not vegan? Okay, there are people I know who are very
90,
old,
like old,
and who
they're
are
gonna die tomorrow. Like,
no, but they're trying to say the health thing, like how they live this long while eating meat.
Oh,
I know people straight up in my family who are 87 years old and have been smoking cigarettes their whole lives, drinking heavily their whole lives, doing drugs. Okay, that's not like, you can't use this one specific person as like an example of overall
that's like
health.
using Obama. Come on.
You
like,
want to
no,
talk
but you know what I
about
mean though? Like it's not fair to say that,
averages.
because there are lots of people
across
who
the
have
board.
lived very,
That's not common.
there are lots of people who have lived
It's not
very
saying, like, please feel free to share the comments with
I'm trying to.
people have lived very old doing very
There's a
bad
lot,
things. So that doesn't mean that suddenly like meat is a good thing. Another thing that someone talked about was oh, like if you have this knowledge about, you share with people. Well, I think definitely all of us do try to share this knowledge.
Yeah.
I know, for example, there are many Miami organizations who specifically they've reached out to people.
Please name them real quick.
Okay, so oh gosh, I have to look at my Instagram. I'm the worst. But anyway, I volunteered.
She's lying.
I volunteered with an organization twice,
But please feel free
and
to share it.
they specifically go to Overtown, Miami, so it's like definitely a food desert over there. I went there on Thanksgiving, I went there another day, and so they pretty much bring vegan food to give to people. And it's hard because in those instances, like those people, like I said, they don't have buying power. So a big thing of veganism is you can be vegan if you have buying power. If you are on the streets and you do not buy food, you know, that's a whole other issue. So if we're giving vegan food to people who do not have this buying power.
But just in general too, like meat, if you go to the supermarket, is more expensive than like produce and other So
So you guys want to talk about somebody thinks that being vegan is a trend.
Oh yes. What time is it right now?
9.
Oh my god, 9:50 already.
Oh,
Okay,
yes, we gotta stop, yeah.
Instagram kicks us off after 1 hour, so we have about 9 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
So and then we stop and then we started.
Oh, okay,
So
perfect.
real quick, and we definitely gotta get into that because
Yeah,
I hear that a lot.
Of course.
And please,
It's a great
let's address
trend
it.
if that's what you want to call it.
But I want.
Mhm.
Gabby said something very important right now that you said that meat is more expensive than other stuff. I have a feeling, and I'm trying to think about this in a very deep way, and I cross my legs and I try to think deep. All right. That I have a feeling it's not necessarily about money. I don't even know if it's about. I think part of it is education. But
It's just people are used to, you know.
But
it's restructuring your diet. It's not an easy thing.
But and that's part of it. But I want just like the way you talked about earlier about socializing people to think things, right?
Right.
So food and the type of condiments that are used we know that salt and sugar are attractive things. People get addicted to things like caffeine,
Yeah.
and when they try to get off of it, they have horrible headaches.
Withdrawals.
That's been me multiple times in my life, and it happens with food as
That's
well.
milk right there.
Right?
That's
So
dairy.
so it's even deeper than just I'm just quit. Some
Yeah, you
people have
become
that ability.
addicted.
You're a strong person. I'm weak. I
That's
give
act-
in. I give in to temptations.
That's what
Yeah.
I wanted
More
actually
ways.
to explain to you earlier, because you were saying
Please,
you
please,
had a
please,
hard
please.
time with letting go cheese and
Oh,
dairy
yeah.
products and
I
stuff like
choose-
that.
yes.
That's actually because
I'm
there's
not proud.
there's
I'm
a
not proud.
protein
Great
within
vegan cheeses.
there's a protein within dairy that's called beta casein that causes an opiate-like effect because it's meant
What is
for a
opiate?
cat.
What is opiate?
Well, it's a drug. It
Okay.
causes a drug-like effect.
Okay.
That's because that milk is meant for a calf, and the calf is supposed to become a very large animal within the first year of its life. And the calf is constantly suckling from the mother to get the milk in order to become large. So when people are drinking milk and eating dairy products, and they have a hard time letting go of these products, it's because you're physically addicted to it.
Mm.
So that's why people have a hard time letting
And
go.
I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah.
We are addicted
We are.
Yeah.
to this,
Of course.
and it's been
And we're conditioned to it too.
and it's
We're
been very yes, absolutely.
desensitized to
And
it.
I was hoping we would get to that.
Yeah.
That yes, this is money. Yes, there's
Oof,
a
it's
money
not
issue.
easy.
There's an
It's not
education
easy at all.
aspect. There's so many aspects to it, but part of the root of it is, and
Addiction.
I hate to blame
It's
everything on
habit.
capitalism
It's habit.
because
It's
Word,
true.
but you can because
right,
nothing to
but
blame.
we are
Please
addicted
do.
to it because ultimately it makes money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it's for is money, and that's why let's talk about the trend.
Wait,
Someone
before
wants-
the ending of the,
But
can I
I
say
mean-
one thing real quick before we end for
No.
this thing? Okay. So
They can
essentially,
say it.
like
Say
I'm
it.
gonna say.
I don't know why she asked. She's gonna say it anyways. She's gonna
I say it to
it.
be polite, but it's fine. Okay, so
You're
like
polite
I
too.
will like feel
That was-
I will definitely talk about these things in terms of like the nuances of like how do you help people who like don't have buying power, this or that. Like I will talk about those things because those like nuances of social justice mean a lot to me. But in general, everyone who's watching this show right now has a smartphone or has Instagram, right?
Well, yeah, they're watching.
Because you're watching on Instagram. So in general, the people I talk to on the day to day, this isn't really a problem for them because I'm in college. The people I talk to are in college, or the
Right.
people who I talk to, they have smartphones. So I understand the concern. It's not like I don't get it, but it's also kind of I feel a little bit of a deflection from the fact that you yourself in this day and age, if you have Instagram,
It's an excuse.
I think you can
All
go
right.
vegan.
So real quick.
So
So real quick. Excuses are that's a very heavy word, right?
not
I'm sorry,
But real quick, but
I shouldn't use it because
Right,
I tend to be a little bit more aggressive because it upsets me.
because
it upsets me.
I'll be very honest with you.
Because it's not.
I'll be
She's
very-
not.
I'll be very honest with you.
It's not easy, man.
I'll be very
Our
honest
life
with
is
you.
not easy.
I'll be very
at all.
And the rhetoric and language that we're using, I hear it with many other type of racial, gender,
Yeah.
LGBTQ type of rhetorics that it's not easy being this, it's not easy being that, and yes. So I wonder if we were to meet a vegan person who was a racist, we're like fuck you, like seriously, like fuck you, like
Yeah.
It doesn't make
right,
sense.
right.
I
So,
know.
but
Yeah.
so I want to read some of these comments real quick because
Yeah.
because these are very real emotions that I think
Okay.
that we should
Of
read.
course.
History maker Jasula, shout out to the poodles. If you have the knowledge, why not educate others and meet people where they
That's
are
why I
at?
said we do try to.
All right, so
educate you.
okay, all right, so
All the
we
time.
hit that already. All right.
That's what we're doing right now.
weekend.
Ra Royal said, you keep bringing up, it'll save you money on health bills. But what about those people who have lived to see 80?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so we addressed that already.
Yeah.
It's not common.
History maker said, rice is not good for you. Are we going to explore the alkaline lifestyle? Tashanika saying, everyone does, even the agriculture industry. I'm not sure what we're, I'm sure
Oh.
we're talking about something.
Okay.
History maker saying, start school programs or initiatives to teach people how
Word,
how
that'd
to
be dope.
garden. That'd be amazing.
That'd be
yeah.
dope.
Ra Royal
Probably
saying,
they're
is
teaching
that Robert?
children.
Robert, is that you?
They're teaching
Saying
children
it's
how
also
to
not fair to say
farm
being
animals.
vegan will also guarantee health.
Well, that's
Humane needs to stop trying to. I'm not gonna get into the guys.
Yeah,
It
that's
might
super
not, but
Um,
there's more
We'll
of
know
a.
that's the
Royal,
difference between
higher outcome that it would
plant-based
be.
and vegan.
Alright, so, and we can we're gonna need a part 2 for sure.
We're gonna do a part 5.
Ra Royal, yeah, yes.
We can talk about
A
this
lot
all
of it's
day.
subjective and empty, basing the argument over veganism on personal experiences
But we
and
have
not
given
factual research over. Yeah, Rob, we have.
We're talking about
This is
both.
all factual.
So real quick, I'm not trying to read everything before we run out of time.
We've
Gave
done all of our
Ms.
research.
McKay saying gave up dairy because it caused migraines. That was one. That was easy
her
for
then.
me.
Nice.
Because we're not baby cats.
This whole idea of factual, though, because we're living in a world where things are fake news. This is also a very interesting concept, right? I tend to be attracted to interesting concepts, right? I don't want to just dismiss things. I want to.
I mean, by all means, everybody
right. So this is very.
We have you have the access of doing your own research too. You don't have to take our word for it.
Yeah.
You can go out and do your own research.
Absolutely, and I think this is part of. I think this is a maybe impetus, right, to that. Like,
absolutely.
Because again, people don't know what they don't know.
Confirmed.
So yeah. So
confirm for yourself.
So if anything, if you doubt it, challenge us in the way that go look it up.
We have
ask questions, right?
Not heard a good logical argument
people,
to any of this.
And to me, it's not. And I guess because I'm also like very race oriented, like I've said this type of stuff to people. Like I don't hear a logical argument around race, and I'm like, what am I dismissing more people than could I win people over by not having such dismissive language? I'm caught in it's very much a paradox. But that's
I'm sorry, I'm mean.
No, it's not about being mean. It's not.
No, I know.
It's about this is tough.
It's being able
this
to
is
get
not
there.
easy,
Yeah.
right?
We do this all day, every
and it's
day.
because we're so passionate about it. That's definitely part of it, right?
Of course.
But so let me just kind of finish reading. Thank you for allowing me to talk because you know. Natasha's saying.
Like, now when it comes to vegan.
Natasha is saying. A lot of things. Natasha's saying it seems like this discussion is disconnected from impoverished communities. We're not even talking about fresh meat all the time.
I wanted to talk about lower income areas.
Almy, you're hilarious. I'm not gonna read that comment.
We're sitting in a fork.
Is this something
inside joke?
Okay.
Inside joke. All right, so we're about to turn it off, and then we'll
be back.
restart it.
Bathroom
All
break.
So we have a lot to address. We're not able to read everyone's
Which is
comments.
great. We're so happy
This is
everybody's
great. This is great. I love this conversation.
That's what we're here for.
We need more of this.
Yes.
We need more of this.
More beers.
We always need more alcohol. This is not
Alcohol
so
is
make sure to
amazing.
tune in. We're about to end it and restart it.
I'm legitimately gonna pee.
Okay.
That was probably so.
Everyone heard this.